Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things power up with your help and I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And in today's video we're going to look into one of Abhijit's video about why is China apparently stockpiling like gold and nukes and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm super curious to learn more about what is happening, but before we jump into today's video,
please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
Alrighty, let's jump into this and see what is happening and how is what China is doing affecting perhaps India.
Is China preparing for a military invasion that could reshape the world? Or is it gearing up for an economic assault that could topple global markets? This week, China's first world-class aircraft carrier took to the seas, and combat jets are buzzing around Taiwan like never before. Meanwhile, China has been hoarding, stockpiling vast reserves of critical resources: oil, minerals, rare earth elements, gold, copper. You name it, they are hoarding it. So China is clearly preparing for something major. Could Xi Jinping be eyeing Taiwan? Is he eyeing the South China Sea? Or is he even eyeing India's Himalayan heights? Or is this just an economic strategy to dominate global trade and eventually dethrone the US dollar? As global tensions rise, the world watches closely. Is this the calm before the storm? Please subscribe and let's decode the science and understand China's thought process and its possible next big move. This is a story you don't want to miss. The China-Russia relationship is at its closest since the Sino-Soviet split of the 1960s. And at the same time, the China-US relationship is at its worst since the Nixon-Kissinger era of the 1970s. This week, US President Joe Biden announced that his administration would quadruple the existing tariffs on imported Chinese electric vehicles to 100%. And he will also hike tariffs on steel, aluminum, medical equipment, semiconductors, solar cells, and lithium batteries. The Chinese government instantly protested naturally and threatened action of its own. The US should immediately correct its wrong practices, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce said in a statement. And they said that China would take measures, resolute measures, to defend its own rights and interests. And China is indeed taking measures. It's been taking measures for quite some time. It is aggressively stockpiling essential commodities. It's been doing so for over 2 years now to secure its economic, military, strategic, etc. interests. So let's take a look. Crude oil and petroleum. China's crude oil imports reached record levels in 2023. In June 23 alone, China imported almost 500,000 tons of crude oil, setting an all-time high. And China has been expanding its strategic petroleum reserves, although specific figures on current reserves are not readily disclosed because of the opaqueness of the Chinese system. Gold. As of early 2024, China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, the PBC, holds over 2,200 tons of gold. The PBC has been increasing its gold reserves for over 16 months consecutively, purchasing more gold in 2023 than any other central bank. They've been essentially buying over $1 billion worth of gold almost every month. In January and February 2024 alone, the PBC added 22 tons of gold to its reserves. Nickel. China has been stockpiling nickel to support its stainless steel and battery production industries. Aluminum. Imports of aluminum, including primary metal as well as alloy, surged to almost 250,000 tons in June 2023. And this shift is notable as China has traditionally been a net exporter of aluminum alloys. Rare earth metals. China controls a significant portion of the world's rare earth metals production, and it's been enhancing its reserves to maintain its dominance over this critical sector. Cobalt. Cobalt is critical for the production of batteries and other high-tech applications. China has been securing cobalt through direct purchases and control of overseas mining operations. Chinese companies are busy stockpiling chip-making equipment parts. China's aggressive investment in semiconductor manufacturing capacity is a long-term threat. What about nuclear weapons? In January this year, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists published its annual in-depth nuclear notebook. The chapter entitled Chinese Nuclear Weapons 2024 warned that in all, China's nuclear expansion is among the largest and most rapid modernization campaigns of the 9 nuclear armed states in the world. China's nuclear capabilities already exceed those needed for its long professed policy of minimum deterrence. But China's nuclear capabilities, continue to grow at an alarming rate. Iron ore. China's imports of iron ore also reached unprecedented levels in 2023. This surge is part of its broader strategy to secure raw materials for its industrial sector. Copper. China's copper imports have been significant, with refined copper imports hitting an all-time high of 494,000 tons, almost 500,000 tons in June 2023, and over 500,000 tons in July 2023. From December 23 to February 24, China's copper inventories surged from 30,905 tons to 285,090 tons, marking the most significant increase since 2020. And I could go on. I could just keep on going on. So the question is this: why is China aggressively stockpiling essential commodities? What does China seek to achieve? What are the strategic implications of China's actions? China is aggressively stockpiling essential commodities. It's been doing so for over 2 years now. What does China seek to achieve? What are the strategic implications of China's actions? Is China preparing for an invasion of Taiwan? Is China preparing to seize Philippine and Japanese South and East China Sea islands? Or is China preparing to take the Himalayan high ground from India? Or does it seek to do all three? So when a major economic power like China starts stockpiling essential commodities, it indicates several potential strategic and economic intentions. First of all, there's preparation for economic or political uncertainty. Stockpiling can indicate that the country is preparing for potential economic or political instability, either domestically or globally. This could be because of anticipated supply chain disruptions, geopolitical tensions, or trade disputes. And we are seeing that China is embroiled in this massive trade dispute with the US. Second, there could be the desire to build strategic reserves for commodities like oil and rare earth metals. Building strategic reserves ensures that the nation has a buffer against future shortages or price spikes. This is crucial for maintaining economic stability and national security. Then there's the desire to influence markets and control prices. By purchasing large quantities of certain commodities, the country can influence global market prices. This can be used to their advantage in international trade negotiations or to support domestic industries. And stockpiling may reflect a strategic push to support key industries. For example, securing rare earth metals is vital for the tech sector and the defense sector, while oil and copper are essential for the broader industrial and economic activities. But what about the possibility of war? So stockpiling essential commodities can indicate that the nation is preparing for war, although it is not always a definitive sign on its own. You have to see whether it's coupled with other indicators and behaviors, in which case it could be part of a broader strategy for military readiness. So essential commodities like oil, metals, and rare earth elements are critical for military production and operations. Stockpiling these commodities ensures a steady supply in case of conflict, when trade routes may be disrupted. If stockpiling is accompanied by significant increases in defense budgets and military procurement, it could signal preparation for conflict. And heightened aggressive rhetoric and deteriorating diplomatic relations with other countries can, when combined with stockpiling, indicate preparation for war. And we are seeing such heightened aggressive rhetoric by China vis-a-vis India, and certainly with the US as well. And there's a lot of military activity around Taiwan as well. So this could indicate the Chinese mindset, which could be preparatory for war. Now, historical instances where nations prepared for war often involved extensive stockpiling of critical resources. For example, before the First World War, before the Second World War, several countries stockpiled resources in anticipation of prolonged conflict. Another example is the behavior of nations during the Gulf War and subsequent conflicts in the Middle East. Leading up to these conflicts, nations involved and their allies significantly increase their oil reserves to ensure military and economic stability during potential disruptions. So, what is going to happen? Is China preparing to invade Taiwan? There is this general belief in the US, in the CIA, in the US Navy and armed forces that China that Xi Jinping has given his armed forces a deadline of 2027 by which they need to be ready for the possibility of taking Taiwan by force. So 2027 seems to be the deadline, and they seem to be on track for doing that. So, in case they feel that they are already ready enough, the readiness levels are sufficient, they may go ahead and perhaps launch an invasion of Taiwan right away. Who knows? Uh, so, probably not now, but you never know. That's vis-a-vis Taiwan. What about the possibility of seizing the Philippine and Japanese South and East China Sea islands? Well, I think that's not that big of a factor when it comes to China's ambitions, territorial ambitions. I think Taiwan is what they really covet. And if they go ahead and take a few small islands, it's going to not give them too much of an accomplishment compared to what they would gain by getting Taiwan, because Taiwan is the key to the Chinese Navy's access to the Pacific Ocean. Taiwan is one of the main bulwarks. It's part of the first island chain that encircles China, and which is something that China chafes against. So I think that it makes much more sense for them to go straight for Taiwan instead of trying to grab a few islands, Philippine Islands or Japanese islands, the Diaoyu Islands, the Senkakus, right? So, and what about the Himalayan high ground? China and India have this border dispute created entirely by China, and the Chinese claim more Indian territory. And of late, there's been a lot of tension along the border, the undemarcated border. So, is China possibly preparing to take the Himalayan high ground from India? Is it preparing to launch an invasion of India? Well, I don't think it would need to stockpile a whole lot of stuff for such an invasion, because if it attacks India, most likely the US is not going to come to the aid of India. And India is essentially going to be on its own. And the longer such a war lasts, the more of an advantage China has. So, stockpiling, which China is doing aggressively over the past 2 years, in my opinion, indicates that it is getting ready for an eventual invasion of Taiwan wherever it happens. There is no apparent countdown to a D-Day or invasion of Taiwan for initiating a blockade or an invasion of Taiwan. But the major strategic indicators clearly show that Mr. Xi Jinping is still preparing his country for some kind of a showdown. And when the showdown happens, it's gonna be with the US, not really with Taiwan. So these developments all suggest that Taiwan will eventually face an existential crisis, probably soon, most likely in the second half of the 2020s, or otherwise in the first half of the 2030s. So that is where we are, and that is what these activities by China probably mean. And let's see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and have
Okay. Wow. So what do you guys think? Do you think that there is a potential of something happening between China and India? Just curious to know your thoughts. I've heard about the Taiwan theory for the longest time now. I felt like it was meant to happen around COVID time. Certainly what Abhijit had outlined does not build trust, right, as to why is China doing what they're doing. You guys are the neighbors, so you perhaps know them the best. And in my head, I'm like, can any one of you tell me, like, why do they have these expansionist theory? What is their belief? Like, why do they do what they do? I would love to know. I really know near to nothing about China. I kind of am discovering them through you, to be honest. So it's fascinating. The whole thing that with Taiwan, I saw a video where one guy was saying that, like, beware the Western world, because if Taiwan falls, the whole democracy falls. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I feel like we live right now in such crazy times where the wars start popping up. So anyone that now would start a war, they have a pass, if you know what I mean. So I just I just wonder what is happening, and if you believe that they are if they are planning to size the territories around what he was saying, Philippines or Japan, or do something in Himalaya. It's fascinating where this world is going, isn't it? Like, almost right now is the perfect time to start a war, because there are other wars going, and I don't know. I feel like we live in very transformative times. I don't know if the Mother Earth is purging things, and that's one way of getting rid of bad stuff. I don't know. I'm struggling, and who knows what's going to happen. Maybe nothing is going to happen. It's interesting that Abhijit has those projections until like 2027, that apparently that's the information. But what is the impact? Like, obviously, we feel here very detached from whatever is happening in Asia, because it's just so far away. I don't know how much you're watching like the European news, let's say. I would perhaps presume not much, but you guys love the geopolitics. So I don't know. Average person in this part of the world who have no particular, they are not politicians, or they don't have any kind of Western, they don't have any businesses out there, or let's say are watching news for some, like, obviously, like, we're all different. We all watch, some of us watch news. I don't like to do that. But the way I'm observing the world in here is a bit more, self-centered, superficial, if you like. So I maybe don't have too much faith. Maybe I'm wronging many people. But I feel like people care about different things, and they care about, let's say, geopolitical situation in the world, and especially in the part of the world that is like a million miles away. So this is why I would love to, like, when that would happen, what do you think that has an impact on India and maybe on the entire world? The guys I mentioned, he said, like, it's the fall of democracy. I don't know why Taiwan is so strategic. What's about that? I would love to know. And yeah, in general, I would love to know your thoughts and what you thought of this one as well. And yeah, I think I'll close the video here. If you did enjoy it, please give a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe to this channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Until then, please do take care. I'm sending peace and love. Bye-bye.